right, we are going to get started with Ms. Kekla Magoon. She is an author of 4 young adult novels, Camo Girl, 37 Things I Love, Fire in the Streets, and The Rock and the River. She also writes nonfiction on historical topics. Kekla has taught writing in New York City and conducts school and library visits nationwide. Kekla holds a BA in history from Northwestern University and a master's in fine art in writing from Vermont College of Fine Arts. She wrote her first novel when she was in high school. So, let's hear what you got.
Thank you.
Ms. Kekla Magoon.
Hello. If I'd known she was going to read all the book titles, I would have had them ready to show right then, so I didn't have to repeat them, but I will repeat them. I have 4 novels. Camo Girl, this is the paperback cover, 37 Things I Love, and The Rock and the River and Fire in the Streets, which are companion novels set in the 1960s, which for my readership, which is middle schoolers, is historical fiction. For this audience, may not be so much. But, you know, it's good. It's good for intergenerational dialogue. Get kids who have no idea what was going on back then, and people my age who have no idea what was going on back then, to talk to people who are still alive and know what was going on back then and can tell those stories, which is part of what interests me about writing about the 1960s, is so that we can sort of have some of those conversations. My name is Kekla. I grew up in Fort Wayne. My parents, who are sitting somewhere out in the dark, I can't really see you guys, are sort of part of the reason I read. My mom used to take me to the library every week, and I was very excited about books and had no idea that one could grow up to write them. I did not know that was a thing that somebody could do. And so it was a very big discovery for me when I moved to New York after college and realized that, you know what, this is actually something I'm interested in. This is something I might want to devote some time to. Even though I did write my first novel in high school. It was 80 pages and I was really proud of it. And that's a big deal for a high schooler. I never thought this was something I was going to end up doing. So it's been a bit of a surprise and a bit of an adventure. And it's exciting to be back home in Fort Wayne and to get to read and to talk to family and friends and new friends about what it is that I've been doing for the last 7 years at this point. So I'm used to talking to kids. Most of the time I am traveling and speaking, and I'm in big auditoriums, and it's, you know, right before lunch or right after lunch, and they're all in there, and there are hundreds of them looking up at me, wanting to know what it's like to be a writer and how they can be a writer. And if they read the books, they're excited. If they haven't read the books, they're like, who are you? And so it's kind of a fun experience to meet them and to interact with them. And it's really different to have an opportunity to actually talk to adult readers you know, who are here voluntarily, which is really exciting, instead of the captive audience of middle schoolers, to whom I'm supposed to teach usually about the civil rights movement and about why I, someone who wasn't around in the civil rights era, want to write and talk about this topic. So because I do that so often, I thought I would do a little bit of that, but more at the end, and I'd talk a little bit about my other books. There are several questions I very often get from young people, and I assume that adults are interested in the same things, even though they frame the questions differently. Kids will ask right away, always, you know, what's your inspiration? And any writer knows that that's a hard question to answer, because, you know, how do you get ideas? You know, you're just walking down the street and you get an idea sometimes. Sometimes you don't have one, sometimes you have to work to get one. So what I tell them usually is that there are two things that I tend to write about. One is things that I know very well, things that have happened to me, experiences I've had, feelings that I've had, people that I've known, things about myself, things about my friends, things I know very well. And then the other area are things I want to learn more about, things I don't know. Because I think writing can be a way to explore, and a way to learn, and a way to sort of put yourself in someone else's shoes for a little bit. And as it happens, my books happen to fall pretty squarely down the line between those two things. I have 2 contemporary novels that are about biracial girls, one in middle school and one in high school, which, you know, are not based on my real life. That's another question that they ask. Are these things that happen to you, are these true stories about your life? They're not. But they're certainly based on, things I've experienced and people that I've known. And I know what it was like to be in middle school, and I know what it was like to be in high school. And I sort of wrote those books based on those experiences. And then things I don't know, right? Like, I wasn't around in the 1960s, so I don't know what it was like to march with Dr. King. I don't know what it was like to be a Black Panther. My books are about two teens who joined the Black Panther Party, or think about joining the Black Panther Party in the 1960s. And so, for me, writing those books is about what it might have felt like to live in that place and in that time, and experience those things, and to learn more about, well, for me, the Black Panther Party, because I had studied the Civil Rights Movement all my life and not really known much about, other things that were going on at that time. And in talking with kids about this topic and about this time period, I realized that the way that we teach, Black history in this country is very, very specific and very, very limited. We talk about the March on Washington a lot. There was a lot of celebration of that this summer when it was the 50th anniversary, and not much else about what was going on at that time. Not much about the protests, not much about what led to those protests, and not much about the individual young people who were involved. We talk a lot about Dr. King, we talk a lot about Rosa Parks, but we don't talk as much about what it might have felt like to be an individual who had to kind of decide what kind of role they wanted to take in that movement, or take no role at all. And so those are kind of the two things that I write about. And so I think what I was going to do this evening is to read a little bit from both sides of my writing life, which is to say I'll read a little bit from the contemporary novel, I'll read from Camel Girl, I think, and then a little bit from The Rock and the River, which is the historical one. And, if you guys have questions, we can talk about other things about my work. Okay, so I want to make sure that I introduce the book fully so that you're not confused. I tried to choose a scene that's not going to require you to know that much, but I still want to introduce the book. So this is Camel Girl, and Camel Girl is about Ella, who is a 6th grader, and she's biracial. Her dad is white, but he passed away a couple of years ago. Her mom is Black. And works for the train company, so she's home only part of the time. She works on the long-distance trains. And so Ella lives with her grandmother, her father's mother, and her mom when her mom is in town. Ella's best friend is Z, and Z is a neighbor boy who has been her best friend her entire life, but she's a very strange kid. He always was. But around the time that Ella's father died, Z's father left. And so the two of them sort of bonded over that, and they sort of escaped their sadness by creating a fantasy world in which Z is a brave knight named Zachariah, which isn't his real name, but that's what he wants to be called now. And Ella becomes the fair lady Eleanor. And so they are knights and ladies, and they have all these adventures, and it was a good escape for them at the time, but over the past year or so, since the incident, Z has really become stuck in this fantasy world, and he can't get out of it, and so everything in his life sort of has to fit into this fantasy in some way, shape, or form. He calls everyone Milady, and and he's teased a lot because he's considered so strange. And clearly, this is a first-person book, so Ella is telling the story. Z has a lot of, this is actually a big problem for Z in his real life, but she doesn't know as much about that because she is Z's real only friend, and they're very close. And Ella gets him, she understands him, and so they play, and this fantasy world works for them. But for her, she's still part of the real world as well, so she feels like she would like to, be part of the real world and make other friends and maybe not be teased so much at school and, the kinds of struggles that they go through because they're considered so strange. But in order to do that, she would really have to leave Z behind, and she's too loyal to him to do that. So this all gets shaken up. That's sort of the status quo. This all gets shaken up when a new boy comes to school named Bailey, and he starts making friends with Ella, and that kind of tests Ella and Z's relationship a little bit, because Ella wants a lot of things that being friends with Z is going to keep her from getting. And I guess I should add that she's biracial, but she's the only Black girl in her school. They live in Nevada, near Las Vegas. And so that is one of the reasons why she and Bailey begin to bond when he moves to town. When Mom's acting cranky, just about anything goes. Grammy stays in her room a lot to avoid crossing Mom's temper, thus keeping her usual busybody self out of my hair. And Mom sits on the couch in the afternoons, watching the sort of cheesy television that causes her to reach for tissues from time to time. It's because of this, and only this, that Z and I get away with building the catapult. We clatter around the pantry and come up with a plan. Using miles of masking tape, we lash the mop handle to the broom to the Swiffer sweeper, and by then it's decently long enough that we think we have a shot at getting Millie's cat to fly all the way over the woodpile. It's not as mean as it sounds. We've secured him in a padded basket, all cushy with a blanket and copious amounts of bubble wrap. To be totally honest, I'm not sure this is the best plan, but Z is taking the name catapult really literally at the moment. Cat-apult, he murmurs, as we experiment with using a beach ball, a lawn chair, the barbecue grill, or my lower back as a fulcrum. I'm on my knees with the pole leaning over my back when Grammy sticks her head out the window. "What in the name of creation?" she shrieks. I scramble to my feet. "We're fine, Grammy," I wave up at her. 5 seconds later, she's standing over us, huffing and puffing from the little sprint she just did. Grammy takes Z by the sides of the face. "You're going to hurt the cat," she says softly, studying him. "Do you want to hurt the cat?" "Fair maiden," Z says, laying his small hands over hers. "This fierce, brave jungle cat that we have captured cannot be harmed. Have you seen him in his wild form? He leaps from tree to tree with ease, this magnificent hunter." "Cats always land on their feet," I translate. "Not when they're trussed up in bubble wrap," Grammy says. She kisses Z's forehead and shoots me a sharp, "You know better, missy," glare. New game. Pretty quick after Grammy gives us the talking to, Z gets tired of playing. It's a lot of work coming up with an idea like the catapult, and very disheartening not to get to see it reach its full potential. We lay in the grass beside our failed experiment. We position ourselves the usual way, head to head with our feet sticking out in opposite directions. So we're ear to ear, really. I know what's coming next. Z blows out a quick, short breath. Then he sucks in a chest full of air and starts blowing loudly. I wait until I think he's going to have to breathe or die before I suck in a breath of my own. Blow it out in a long, slow whoosh. We go back and forth as long as we can until we're both gasping for breath and not laughing becomes too hard. "Wind tunnel!" Z shrieks, rolling until his cheek touches the grass. A few blades poke into his nose and he sneezes, which just makes both of us laugh louder. When we're all laughed out, we look up at the clouds. Today, they're few and far between. The sky is blue-white and almost spotless. Z murmurs something to himself. I glance at him out of the corner of my eye, not sure if I was supposed to hear and answer. He stares up at the sky, and I wonder, not for the first time, how it is in his mind. Millie's cat, now free, skulks in the grass around our bodies. Why he's not running for the hills, I don't understand. Glutton for punishment, I guess. Or maybe it really wasn't so bad, what we almost did. I look at Z, lying there, all innocent and thoughtful, all wrapped up in his imagination, wherever it's taking him. The cat steps on his belly, and he gently strokes its ears. There's a fine line between things you can get away with and things that are actually wrong. The catapult episode is a small case. There are bigger cases. I'm talking about times when the real world and Z's world don't line up, and he doesn't seem to see it. We shouldn't have tried that, I tell him. Putting Gorbachev in a bubble? Cats can't fly. Z laughs. Cats can't fly, milady. Cats can't fly, he repeats. I get that feeling all of a sudden, that desperate tugging feeling that I want the game to be over, just for a minute. I roll toward him. Come on, you know it wasn't very nice. Z rubs Gorbachev's head. To tame the wild beast is no simple feat. I grind my heels into the grass. It's Millie's cat, I say. Wild to him is Mrs. Taylor's garden. Z glances toward Millie's backyard. Maybe he's looking for the garden. Maybe he's looking at the treehouse, the one we both sometimes forget isn't ours anymore. It's just Millie's. I try again. Are you sad? Z jerks his chin back, pointing his face to the sky. He gazes at the fluffy, floating clouds. It's just us, I whisper. You can talk to me when it's just us. I know he's listening, but I guess he doesn't want to come back to Earth. I try to content myself with seeing things his way. Grammy says sadness doesn't last forever, but with Z and me, it's sometimes hard to see that. It's quiet out here until suddenly it's not. A strange sound from inside the house, or on the other side of the house. Sort of a pinging, kind of echoey. I sit up, listening. Z sits up, too, gathers his backpack, and slides it onto his shoulder. Do you want me to have Grammy drive you to the library, I say? Sometimes we do that. usually when it's raining or cold, which isn't all that often, but we've been known to do it just for the heck of it, too. Z shakes his head. No, I will ride. By which he means horseback, by which he means walking. He climbs to his feet. Good day, milady Eleanor. Good day, Zachariah. He takes a shortcut across my backyard and into Millie's. The cat wanders vaguely after him, but I don't worry, because it won't leave our yards. It doesn't like the feel of cement compared to grass. I'm quite ready to go inside, but there's something going on, something nagging at me. It's the sound, the echoey, pinging sound that is both strange and familiar somehow. Then it stops, and there's another sound, a sort of metallic thunk, but dull. Then it's back. Ping, echo, ping. What is Grammy up to now? I skip around the house to the front yard. Grammy! The word is out of my mouth as I'm coming around the corner, and oh, how I wish I could take it back. I'd just melt right into the side of the house and pretend I was never there. It's not Grammy. Really, really not. It's a boy. I stand, exposed, as he catches the basketball he's been bouncing in my driveway, and turns. Not just any boy. Bailey James. She has a little bit of a crush on him, even though they've only spoken once, and all they said was hi. It was a very important hi, and he said hi back, so that's critical. Chapter 14. Bailey catches the basketball mid-bounce. It's you, he says, surprised. You're in my class. I put my hands on my hips, feeling reckless. You're in my driveway. Those words were never part of the plan. Bailey cringes, looking, I don't know, guilty? You have the only basketball hoop in the neighborhood, he says. Do you mind? I contemplate. If it were Jonathan asking, the boy who teases her, I would say no, just because I can. Instead, I shrug. It was here when we moved in. Bailey frowns. You don't play? He dribbles hard in a fancy pattern, spinning with his feet. So cool. I don't even own a ball, I say. Bailey grunts like this is a deep sacrilege. Want me to show you? I don't do sports. Really don't do them. But I find myself saying, yeah, okay. Bailey grins and I feel myself blushing. This is so not going to go well. Why did I say yes? He takes 2 steps closer, still smiling. And I remember why. So tell me, Ella, he says, how much do you know about the sport of the gods? He knows my name. I didn't tell him, did I? Hi, that was it. Until just now. I never told him, but he knows. Which means he must have asked someone. Which means he was thinking about me. Somewhere, somehow, for just a second. I turn my hands up. I know it's called basketball, I say, and it tends to be orange. Bailey flips the ball up onto one finger, spinning it artfully. Well, then we have our work cut out for us. I'm at least 20 minutes away from being able to do that, I say, pointing. Bailey laughs, actually laughs at what I just said. His smile gets better the longer he wears it. I don't get tired of looking. Bailey teaches me to dribble, guard, pass, check, and shoot. I throw the ball up over and over, but it just refuses to go into the basket. Bailey never laughs when I miss. He just goes, good try. Or if it wasn't, he gives me pointers. He laughs a lot of the rest of the time, though, and sometimes close to my ear. I like the sound of his voice. He explains the rules, and we try to play one-on-one, but obviously I'm no match for his actual skills. He must be bored with me. He's really patient, though. I wonder why he's not still at the school playing ball with Jonathan Hoffman and his cronies. That would be more his speed. Instead, he's here. I try to guard him, but he's really fast and gets by me every time. We don't keep score, because what's the point? But he gives me plenty of turns. There's a part where his hand is on my back, guarding me. I duck, spin, stop, aim a little longer, shoot. The ball swishes through the net, making my first basket ever. I jump and clap my hands, screeching, yes! Bailey pumps his fist in the air. He hugs me with a hard fist thump on my back. I'm suddenly very aware of my training bra. We pause in the hug, then spring apart. The basketball rolls to a stop against the pole. Bailey says. I say. That was really good, he says. I never made a basket before. Yeah? Cool. Bailey fetches the ball and holds it in front of him. I'm not sure if he's about to check it to me or if he's using it as a shield. Knowing me, I'm going to go with shield. I take a step back. The sky's grown dusky, almost dinner-time light. It's a little funny that Mom and Grammy haven't come to call me in yet. Can I ask you a question, Bailey says. Anything. Yeah, okay. How come you hang with that little white boy? So this is how it ends. Still, I was lucky. I had one whole afternoon with Bailey all to myself. A whole afternoon living some other girl's fabulous life. I tilt my head, innocent. Everyone here is white. Bailey shrugs. Yeah, I get that, but why him? I search for something to say besides the real reason. Someone has to look out for him. We don't know each other well, so I figure half-truths are okay. Saying it also makes me seem whatever the girl version of chivalrous is. Yeah, I get that, Bailey says. No one gets that. Maybe he's just being nice. I gotta go, he says a second later. Confirmed. He's just being nice. Bye. Bye. I call after him, a shade less than desperate. You can use the hoop any time. Bailey looks back over his shoulder, gives me a full-arm finger point. Count on it. I slip inside and lock the front door. Mom and Grammy are tripping all over each other in the kitchen, working on dinner. It seems like they just got started. My stomach rumbles. No dinner, I say? What have you been doing? Grammy waggles her eyebrows at me. Oh, honey, what have you been doing? Mom chokes back a laugh and smacks Grammy with a spatula. Hush, leave the child alone. My heart thumps, eyes narrow. Why? Grammy turns, all matter of fact, on Mom. Keisha, they were right there in the driveway for all the world to see. She has no choice but to tell us all about him. Grammy winks. That's what we women do. There's nothing to tell, I mumble. He's just a boy from school. He won't be coming back. It hurts a little to say it out loud. Mom and Grammy look at each other. Mom smiles at me. I know a thing or two about men, Grammy says. Splenda, please, Mom groans. Grammy waves her fork, undeterred. I know men, when they're coming and when they're going, she says. That one will be back. I make a silly face at her because, well, that's just what I do. I make the silly face, but underneath, I'm really, really hoping she's right. Hello. All right. Perfect. Okay. So that was Camel Girl. An example of the contemporary that I do. The kids, want to know